course. Okay, here we go. So these are multiple rare events happening simultaneously. We have Saturn and Neptune that are both now in Aries at 0 degrees. And just to get this out of the way early, 0 degrees is considered a world point, which means that the things that happen cannot be, first of all, it's a world point because it's global. So the things that we're going to be seeing are going to be taking global effect, basically. And they're unavoidable. It's kind of like eclipse nodal points, unavoidable, like they're fated, they have to happen. And I know you can't see this, but they're always public, meaning they can't be hidden. Anything that happens at 0 degrees, Aries specifically, it's a collective event. It will affect everybody and it's irreversible. So it means that like it will always mark like a new era and we can't avoid it. It's also a fire horse year that started February 17th, the Lunar New Year. We're in a fire horse year now. I'll explain all this later, but just like as a intro, this is what we're dealing with. Mercury is currently in retrograde. It started on February 26th and it's ending March 20th, and it's in Pisces. There's so much Pisces activity going on. There's 4 eclipses in 6 months. We've already gone through 2 that have already happened, and there's 2 more. We'll get into all of that too and what that means to you specifically. There are 3 major planets that have shifted since 2023. Like if you guys were with me at my last astrological presentation, that was about Pluto moving into Aquarius. That happened in 2023. Neptune is now in Aries and Uranus is going into Gemini next month. So there's that equates to a huge entire shift happening for everybody collectively and also individually. So this may be what you're experiencing personally. You might be experiencing restlessness, a sense of urgency for something to change. And this might not be like it just started. This might have been already kind of percolating in the back, but just increasing in intensity as time is going. A sensation that maybe a career path is not suddenly fitting anymore like it used to. A spiritual questioning of like, who am I? What's my purpose? And maybe a revamping of that, like feeling a new calling spiritually, wanting to discover, explore more. A heightened sensitivity to collective trauma. I mean, I think that's a given for all of us. A sense that, technology is advancing way faster than you can process. And also a sense that the old world and the old sort of like ways are dying, but something hasn't really been built to replace it yet. So it feels like things are in flux. So let's try and understand like more about this and also like how can we navigate this. So let's start with Neptune because there's a lot of activity with Neptune, right? So Neptune entered Aries January 26th, and it's going to stay there till 2039. So Neptune is, if we want to define the planet and what it actually is responsible for, Neptune is the planet of like dreams and mysticism. It also is responsible for illusions, delusions. So as you see here, dreams, visions, spirituality, escapism, compassion, empathy, unconditional love, art, creativity, imagination, boundaries that are dissolving or disappearing entirely, and the veil between the material and the spiritual realms. This is super, super important because of what we're covering. So Neptune rules Pisces. That's its home. So it was in Pisces from 2011 to 2026. That was its home. Now it's out of its home and it has shifted into Aries and it's going to be there till 2039, meaning it's what it ruled for Pisces is now not happening as strongly as it was before. So this is why it's so important to check your Pisces placements, because that will inform you personally as to like how this is going to be affecting you this year and also to 2039. That's a pretty big chunk of time. So, just a quick reminder before we get into it, and you guys can take screenshots. Your sun sign is like who you are and how you sort of like your core ego. Okay. Your moon sign is going to be how you feel. So, it's about emotions. Moon governs the water or the emotional body. Rising is how you show up or how other people, like how you face the world. So, how other people are going to experience you. And Mercury has to do with how you think and how you communicate. Venus is how you love and it reflects relationships. Mars is how you act or fight. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You can screenshot this too if you need to. So, and I'm not going to read everything that as we move forward, but if this applies to you, if you're a Pisces sun, Pisces moon, or Pisces rising, take a screenshot of this so that you have it for the future. I know I asked earlier, but I think we may have some people with this with some of this affecting them. So if I go too quickly, please tell me and I'll come back to a slide. Okay. So for Pisces sun, Pisces moon, or Pisces rising, take your pictures down. Okay. Now for people who have Pisces placements in Mercury, Venus, or Mars. So the reason why this is important is because since its ruling planet has also now shifted out, that means there's going to be an upheaval in how people show up and how people communicate. Those who have Pisces placements, right? So how they show up, how they communicate, how they love, how they conflict, how they have resolution in conflict, and also their emotional body because it governs their mood, right? So that's why this is so important. So now I'm going to move on to Saturn. So Saturn entered Aries on February 13th, and it's going to stay until April 2028. Saturn is another big one because Saturn is the lesson maker. It's the strict teacher that, like, it's often described as like Saturn is like the teacher that is really strict and might be kind of like rigid, and you kind of dislike them but also appreciate them because you learn a lot from that teacher. That's what Saturn is. It's like it rules discipline, structure, responsibility, time, aging, mastery through effort, boundaries, limits, rules, authority, and here's a big one, government and systems. So it also rules karma, consequences, lessons learned the most difficult ways, and long-term goals and commitment. So Saturn is also getting a whole upheaval, right? So anything that has to do with our lessons being learned individually, that's being affected too. Does that make sense? So Saturn is now in Aries, just like Neptune moved into Aries. And I'm going to go over this as well, that it entered at 0 degrees, and that's super significant too. So what's Saturn energy about is it's like it's going to come in like a wrecking ball and teach you a bunch of stuff. So it helps to build your authentic self through disciplined action. So again, like not rigidity, but it's going to teach you through like the tough lessons, right? So it's gonna be strenuous often with Saturn. So it helps you to learn how to lead in your own life, channel anger and frustration productively. And it took a little dip out, but it re-entered Aries and it's going to stay in Aries until April 2028. So let's look at why that's significant, why those two are significant. Both Saturn and Neptune are now in Aries. So for Saturn, it'll be in Aries for 2 years, and Neptune will be in Aries for 13 years. This means wherever you have Aries placements, you in your chart, they're getting hit double the energy simultaneously until 2028. And then it's going to continue with Neptune until 2039. So for everybody that I asked earlier, check your north nodes. Like if you have Aries in your north nodes, that's going to be really, really significant. If you have Aries, again, I'm going to cover this, but Aries in your sun sign, moon, rising, or if you have it in any particular house, you're going to want to go look at what that house is responsible for, because you're going to get not only the energy of, remember, Neptune is the planet that's responsible for illusions and intuition and dreams and things like that. Neptune is also known as like the fog bringer. So that's why I didn't really talk about it, but that's why in that one slide about Neptune, there was a ton of clouds because Neptune brings this sort of blurry, I can see, I can kind of not see energy. And so Neptune now in Aries, not in its home planet, means that that fog has been lifted. So if any of you guys have recently gone through um, any kind of like sudden realization, sudden like almost like something's been staring at you this whole time, but you're like, how did I not see that? It's because of this, because Neptune shifting out of Pisces and into Aries means Aries is about, oh, now you're going to wake up and find out. Like that's Aries energy. And at 0 degrees, both of these planets being, and now it doesn't stay in 0 degrees, just so you guys are aware too. Um, that's just where it started. But 0 degrees is like taking your baby steps. It's like just learning how to kind of move through things. So when we see anything in the very early stages in your chart that's like 0 to 10 degrees, that means that it's you're kind of brand new in that lesson in your life or in that chapter, in that type of, whether it's a sign or whether it's a house, like based on what we're looking at, the early degrees means that you're kind of starting in to a whole lesson. The last degrees, like 25 to 30, is like you're closing out a karmic chapter. So that's why this is even more important, is that both of these planets met at 0 degrees. So this is for particularly Saturn in Aries, because before we were looking at Neptune, right, in Pisces. So now we're looking at Saturn in Aries. So if you're Aries sun, Aries moon, or Aries rising, take your screenshots now, because this is going to tell you how Saturn in Aries is affecting you specifically based on sun, moon, or rising. And again, if I go too fast, just let me know. So now this slide is how does Mercury, Venus, and Mars get affected by Saturn and Aries? And if I'm in the way, let me know, okay? Because I can't see myself on the screen. So remember, Mercury is about communication, Venus is relationships, love, and Mars is conflict or anger. And Aries is ruled by Mars. Just an additional little gut punch there, because Mars, like just like how Neptune and Pisces is like its home zodiac, Aries is Mars's home zodiac. So that means that section of people who are experiencing, who have their Mars and Aries, are going to get kind of like that double whammy too. So now we look at how Neptune, the planet that's responsible for that kind of, is it illusion? Is it reality? Is it my intuition? I can't really tell. Like that type of energy, sensitivity, things like that. Neptune is now in Aries. So this is how it's going to affect people who have Aries placements, particularly. So again, Aries sun, Aries moon, Aries rising, based on Neptune. And now this is Neptune in Aries for Mercury, Venus, and Mars. The crazy thing is, you guys, like the more research I did, and I'm sure like you guys remember because I've talked to a lot of you guys about this, but the more I did research, the more there was research to be made and had. Like it just the layers of the onion just kept going and going and going. Because like the best way that I can describe it is like when you're trying to understand your birth chart, there are different lenses that you have to put together to look through to be able to understand what it means for you in particular. So like, Mercury has a whole meaning on its own. Then there's Aries. Then you have to put those together to understand what that means. Oh, and then it's because Neptune is in Aries. And then that's an additional layer. It can be very, not confusing, but there's just so many layers to it. Okay, so moving on. Now, let's say you guys didn't have any of those placements, or maybe you did, but now we can look at how Neptune is going to affect you specifically based on your rising sign. So now we're going to get into everybody. So if you've seen this wheel before with me, or on your own, this is all of the houses. So whenever we reference like what's in your fourth house, what's in your seventh house, or whatever, this is what we're talking about. So again, if you want to take a screenshot of this too, feel free. You can also look it up on your own too if you don't want to take a screenshot. But this is what we're going to be also referencing. Okay, so we're going to start with everybody's, like each rising sign. So I'm going to explain this. If you're in Aries rising, that means Aries is in your first house. Okay, so that's right here. This is, if you're an Aries rising, that puts this in your first house. So if you are a Gemini rising, then Gemini is going to be in your first house, right? So going back to this, for Aries rising, this is how you can interpret Neptune being in Aries now, how that's going to affect you as an Aries rising person, or right on the next part of it as a Pisces rising person, because then that means Aries is in your second house. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit quicker because there's so much to cover. So again, tell me if I'm going too fast and I'll slow it down. So now this is for Aquarius rising. So that means Aries will be in your third house, and Capricorn rising, which means Aries will be in your fourth house. So each house is responsible for different things. And if there's somebody that you guys are, a partner or somebody else that is of significance to you, that you want to know what their stuff is, if you have their information, go ahead and screenshot it for them too. Or read it if you're curious, because I know I did that for my boyfriend. Okay, moving on. So Sagittarius rising, that means Aries is in your fifth house. Each house is different, right? So Scorpio rising, Aries is going to be in your sixth house. Again, this is all under the umbrella of how is Neptune going to affect you guys being in Aries, right? Okay, did everybody take their screenshots? Yeah, okay. Now Libra rising, that means Aries is in your seventh house. For Virgo rising, Aries is in your eighth house. Again, tell me if you want me to move my head. Okay. Okay. Did everybody get their screenshots? We're good? Okay. Now, Leo rising, Aries is in your ninth house. Cancer rising, Aries is in your 10th house. So different things being affected, right, based on your house. Okay. I'm going to go to the next slide. Now, Gemini rising, Aries will be in your 11th house. And Taurus rising, Aries is going to be in the 12th house. Taurus rising, Aries in 12th house. If I said that right. Okay. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds and I'm going to move to the next one. So now, how does Saturn in Aries affect you specifically? We're going to do the same thing, but now the whole lens has shifted from Neptune in Aries to Saturn in Aries. And again, people who have Aries placements, more than likely your life is getting a complete overhaul. So let's go into it. Aries rising, again, Aries is in your first house of self. Pisces rising, Aries is in your second house. Aquarius rising, Aries is in your third house. And for Capricorn rising, Aries is in your fourth house.
What if Aries is your north node?
Well, if Aries is in your north node, that means your north node is your what they call like your guiding light. So your south node is where you are overdeveloped. So in terms of shadow work, we look at your south node, and that gives us information as to what you are overdeveloped on in your south node. And your north node is where in your kind of blueprint of your incarnation, you wrote in that that's what you want to develop more. So in that sense, we know that if Aries is in your north node, that means Aries qualities, Aries traits is something that you the lesson in this incarnation may be to develop that more because it's in your north node. It's your guiding light. You're trying to strengthen that bit. And to take it a bit further, Aries is about self. So it could, in very short, it could mean that there might be an overdevelopment of not focusing on yourself and focusing on others. And so it might be the time to really reevaluate that. How can I put myself first? And not to negate other people or the collective, but if it's in your north node, that means attention is being drawn there. And especially right now, it means there is a undeniable, um, not just undeniable, but like you can't escape it. Like you're gonna have to face how to put yourself first and all the other lessons that Aries teaches. I hope that makes sense. But I didn't cover that because it would have been like 800 slides. And people have things to do. But, but if you guys want to like look at that more, like I'm super down to do it individually.
Yeah,
Okay.
that tracks.
Okay. Thanks for the validation, confirmation. Okay. So this one, we are looking at Sagittarius rising. Aries is in your fifth house. And that's about romance and love and things like that. Scorpio rising, Aries is in your sixth house. More so, sixth is about health and fitness and wellness and things like that. There's other stuff too, but Libra rising, Aries is in your seventh house, marriage, partnership, contracts, partnership contracts. And Virgo rising, Aries is in your eighth house. And thanks for the question too. If I can't claim that I'm not an astrologer, but I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So like I spend a lot of time studying this stuff. So if I know the answer, I will give it to you. Okay, Leo rising. Aries is in your ninth house. Cancer rising. Aries is in your 10th house. Gemini rising. Aries is in your 11th house. For Taurus risings, Aries is in your 12th house. Okay. Okay, so let's interpret this in more of a general term. So collectively, what does this mean on a collective basis, right? So Neptune again in Aries from January 26th to 2039. Again, just to recap, Neptune is in charge of spirituality, ideals, delusions or illusions, fog, and what we believe to be righteous. Aries, again, remember, Aries and Mars, it's the whole war thing, it's connected. So Aries is responsible for war, conflict, action, the self versus other, like I was just describing. Aries is self-oriented. So these are the examples of how we're all on a collective scale experiencing things. The wars that we're experiencing right now, and how, depending on what angle you're listening it from, it can sound like it's things are coming from a moral or religious framework, or how they're sort of describing why they're in these wars to begin with. That's what they're sort of talking about. If you are watching certain things, the governments are using these moral languages as also forms of justification, and everyone seems to be convinced that they're fighting on the what's they're considered the right side. So again, Neptune is foggy, but it's about spirituality. It's about people's personal delusions. So on a grand scale, because that's in conjunction with Aries about war and conflict, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of also too, I forgot to mention, because I don't know if I put it in the slide or not. Oh, I think I might have. But just to go back, so Neptune also, because it rules um the fog, and because the fog is now lifted, that's why we're seeing so many things being revealed, like so many things that have been exposed, like the Epstein files and things like that. Like this is the time, because now Neptune has moved out of Pisces and into Aries, that we're also going to see more. Aries is also very impulsive energy. It's fire. It's a fire sign, so it can be very impulsive, very let's go. Like, so we're seeing a convergence of different, because Aries energy is different, very different than Pisces energy. But Neptune being the ruler of these things, now being in Aries, means that fog, and what was maybe what there was a collective delusion or illusion, is now being lifted. So things are being revealed way, way more than it ever has. So now Saturn, just to recap, going to be in Aries till 2028 of April. So Saturn again is the ruler of structure, authority, government, law, discipline, consequences. Again, Aries is conflict, war, force, self first, and aggressiveness. So if you put it together, then you can see the examples, the ice raids and the deportations, and the Venezuelan president being kidnapped, and like international laws and treaties and things are being completely ignored, because Saturn being the ruler, right? It's like rules, the lesson maker. It's like the structure. If it's at 0 degrees Aries, that means it's in its weakest point. So that's why we're seeing so much corruption and no action. We're not seeing anything like coming from it, right? That's because Saturn is too weak right now in its early stages of Aries to do anything about it. And also authority figures acting without legal accountability. Same thing, right? It's like, what is going on? Okay, so we haven't reached this yet. Uranus is going into Gemini next month, but it's going to be there till 2033. So is the planet, like as if it could get any more, Uranus is the planet of revolution, of disruption, of breakthroughs and awakenings. Gemini is responsible for communication, information, AI, media, and how we learn, okay? And how we connect through learning too. So what this could possibly look like: AI kind of taking over everything, which we sort of already have. We're already seeing that with ChatGPT and Claude and all these other things, right? Like we're already seeing that that's happening. But from now until 2033, it's probably going to skyrocket way more than we've ever seen it before. Also, remember, everything's under a fire horse here, and we're going to get to that. But that means everything we've talked about so far is at fire rocket speeds. Anything, any lessons, all of it is just like under pressurized like force. So things are happening much, much faster. Okay. So the other thing that we might see, because Uranus and Gemini in conjunction together, we may see more like citizen journalists. We may see more like, which I know I've already seen that on TikTok and other social medias, a lot of people boots on the ground being the reporters, like for the community, as opposed to trusting big box kind of like TV stations and things like that. So this also creates the space for anyone who's interested in becoming that. This is a very fruitful time for people who are interested in combining that, like as an interest that they might have. This is a great time for them to do that. Because everyone can have a platform and then use their voice, and all the perspectives are going to matter because remember too, trust is very low, right? So not everybody is trusting, and I personally don't either, like the media outlets. So then I trust more, I'm just being honest, I trust more of the information I get off of TikTok than I do, you know, TV stations and stuff. And that might not be everybody, but I'm just saying um, things were going to change in this direction. Also, remember too, like, just to add like a spiritual note into this, there we do live in quantum realities. So we also get to choose what we align with. I don't want this to just be like fear mongering, but things are going to be changing in terms of technology very rapidly, and until at least 2033. It's going to probably continue, but we're going to see more of it. Also how we're going to learn too, which I know I covered, but how we learn, how we grow. We might start like pods of teaching one another things, which, like, look at me, I'm doing this, you know what I mean? So what can we do so far? When information is super overwhelming, when everyone claims moral authority, when institutions are compromised clearly and government systems are compromised, the only stable reference point is internal. So it's going to be imperative for people to be grounded in their own spiritual compass. So using your own energetic discernment, your own body feedback, like your intuitive body feedback, right? Your body's wisdom, and your own connection to divinity, source, however way you recognize that, and connection to your own intuition. So it's going to be really, really important to not only define that, but strengthen that muscle. Okay, let's get to the next thing. So Mercury is also currently retrograde, as if we needed another thing to add to all this. And it will be until March 20th. So February 26th to March 20th. So again, Pisces rules emotions, intuition, fog, and like kind of the dreamlike state of things. Mercury is the planet of logic, communication, technology. So when Mercury is retrograde, that means there's typically glitches, errors, issues with communication, logic, and technology. So now you add that on top of the layer of it being Pisces, it can add emotional fog, miscommunication, and also internal miscommunication, even within oneself. So that means your intuition may still ping very intensely, okay? But the interpretation of what that intense intuitive hit is may be misconstrued, because Mercury, the planet of communication, is not on course right now. So it could add stress to an even more stressful time. I'm going to check the comments real quick. Yes, sorry. If anything is in the way, let me know, because I can't. You guys can interrupt me at any time, because it's hard to check the chat when I'm kind of active in the moment of it all. But sorry, if it is, let me know. Okay. So far, does that make sense? Like Pisces, Mercury, retrograde. I don't know about you guys, but my car has glitched countless times. My computer, I mean, I was literally like, this better work today, because I'm not even exaggerating. I had to download my slide deck probably 12 times, because 90% of the times that I downloaded it, the graphics were not loading. So I had to trash it and then try to compress stuff. Like I had to do it so many times because technology, right? My Zoom won't work all the time every day either. There's just been a ton of things that have been happening, and I'm sure you guys have your own stories too of what's been going on for you personally. So yes, I would also suggest if anybody would like to do any kind of tarot reading or intuitive reading, to just hold off until the 20th. If you want to do it earlier than that, that's up to you. But that's just my recommendation because, again, interpretations can be skewed. So, again, what can this look like individually? Because remember, Pisces also, its ruler is Neptune, right? So that means dreams and the astral realm can also come into play. So past life memories might resurface. People might have like actual dreams of other lifetimes, or they might have spontaneous kind of an intrusive download of another lifetime. Um, if anyone has felt any kind of emotional or mental fog, because again, Mercury communication, thinking, that's what it rules, but also Pisces is emotion. So if there's any fog there, just trust that it's going to dissipate pretty soon. If you ever feel, or since the 26th, if you felt that people are not understanding you as clearly as you feel like, or or understanding your boundaries or respecting your boundaries, that things need to be recommunicated again, even to yourself, like that is one way to understand what you might be experiencing. Compassion fatigue, old wounds resurfacing, escapism, like temptation to just, and that's totally normal too with everything going on, right? Like I can't blame anyone. But the other thing too with all of this, the the age old, I know people like to laugh at this one too, but exes might resurface. So have fun with that one. Okay, on to the next. Oh, also hold on. If exes do resurface, just be careful. Because remember, this is in Pisces. So delusion, illusion, just be careful, okay? All right, now back to the next thing, which is the Lunar New Year being in the fire horse. So it's all about speed, it's all about transformation. So let's look at fire energy and horse energy. Okay, so fire energy, intensity, transformation. And this is based off the research I did about, in particular, the cycles of the Lunar New Year and what uh, not only the animal, but the element as well. And there's also another layer to it too, like this is fire, there's wood, there's other elements as well. So fire energy includes intensity, transformation, courage, a boldness, risk taking, passion, anger, heat, rapid change or combustion, right? Horse energy is speed. So we're going to see this year. So speed, movement, freedom, independence, travel, adventure, passion, enthusiasm, impulsiveness, charisma, charm, and social energy. So what you may notice, and the last time this happened was 60 years ago, by the way, 1966. So what you may notice is that everything's going to speed up. Like decisions that maybe it took you longer to take, you might be making them much quicker than normal. You may be experiencing impatience because, again, with the fire horse and compounded with everything we've already talked about too so far, it may create a sense of decreased tolerance or decreased patience. You're going to see, maybe not within yourself, but you will see with other people, like people making impulsive decisions of maybe quitting a job or uh, ending a relationship. So bold moves may happen. This is also a time for entrepreneurial adventures to also rise for several reasons, but you might see more people aligning with being self-employed or having side hustles or things like that. Also, be careful too, because this can affect romance. It can accelerate things or make things feel like they're speeding up. I'm not saying be careful like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying be cautious, right? So again, restlessness, craving freedom, craving change. If anyone has seen like 555 recently, which is like the angel number for change, if anyone's seen that a lot, then I would say you could probably expect that change is going to come to your personal life pretty soon, especially because of this being that it's a fire horse here. So everything accelerates. Now, you have free will here, so you can choose what camp you fall under, okay? But there's a way to be like to thrive, and there's a way that you might struggle. So the people who have like low tolerance for change, they may struggle. Okay. The people who have like a higher tolerance or may like lean into change will have a better time with the fire horse here. Because it'll kind of fuel their energy. So fire signs may be more may enjoy this more or may adapt to it better, whereas earth signs may struggle a bit more with the fire horse energy. Okay, so collective experience again. Everything is happening so freaking fast with an emotional intensity. So again, zooming out of your personal life and looking at the greater collective, what we're all seeing, what we're all experiencing, things are happening. Maybe again, maybe not in your personal life, but if you can see in your close people's lives, that things are going quickly in other people's situations in their lives too. Bold moves changing, relationships, people moving, making impulsive decisions, impatience at peak levels, restlessness for freedom. You're going to see a lot of that if you don't feel that within yourself. Like something needs to change. Something needs to happen. So what we are all seeing is political decisions are happening faster than maybe most of us can even realize. It's like every day it's something new. But social movements are also going to be that they already have, but we're going to see them erupting even more. People making life altering choices, everything feeling urgent and accelerated. So this is all, I'm kind of repeating it, but you see where that's going. So that's fire horse energy. Oh, everything happening so far except for Uranus moving into Gemini. That hasn't happened. That's next month, but everything else has happened already. Now, in addition to all of that, the eclipses, which we've already had two, we have two more. Here we go. Okay, so let's just briefly, why are eclipses significant? So you might have heard me say this before. Like the example I always give is think of your life like the ocean floor. Okay, there's sediment at the ocean floor, right? So there's parts of yourself that might be hidden on the floor, parts of yourself that you might have avoided, parts of yourself that you might have buried. Usually for most people, it's something we know is there, like shadow work, right? It's there, but we're kind of not, I'll deal with that later type of energy. So what eclipses do is they bring a massive wave, bring all that sediment up from the bottom of the ocean floor. It jostles it around, and that's experientially, a person feels that, for us to have to face the things that we've been ignoring. So suddenly it's like all the things that you were avoiding, not trying to work on, not trying to face, this makes it so that it's impossible to ignore. So that's what eclipses do. So the benefit of these nodal points in your life is that they tend to be sort of like a slingshot effect, right? It catapults you really forward. Like that lesson, it just takes you from A to Z pretty quickly. So your timeline kind of accelerates faster than maybe you expected. It reveals things that although for most of us we've been avoiding, it makes it so that it's so fast that you kind of don't have a chance to catch your breath. You have to face it in order to move forward. So again, they're unavoidable. Okay. So let's look at each of yours and dive into that because they're fated nodal points. No one is exempt. And it's important to look at your chart to be able to understand more deeply, like, how does this affect me personally? And which area of my life is it going to affect? But remember, like how you respond, that part is totally free will, right? So the first axes, Aquarius and Leo. The second axes, Virgo, Pisces. So what that means is February 17th, we had the solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees. So 28 degrees being close to the end, right? It ends at 30 degrees. So that means we're closing out chapters. It's a closing out of a chapter. So if the solar eclipse was in Aquarius, that means the focus is on innovation, community, technology, and revolution. Okay. So March 3rd, this is just sort of a blurb, just in general. Okay. We're going to dive into each person's, but March 3rd, that happened was a lunar eclipse, and it was what was it, the red one too, the red moon one? March 3rd in Virgo at 12 degrees. So we're seeing a little bit in the more closer to the beginning stages of the degrees. So if it's in Virgo, that means we're releasing perfectionism, completing work health cycles. Now, the two that we haven't had yet, August is another solar eclipse in Leo. And then August 28th is a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces. So for the Leo one, the solar eclipse, we're stepping into creative leadership and being seen, again, collectively, right? And then for the Pisces one, the lunar eclipse on the 28th, this one's at 4 degrees. So that means we're starting a chapter, right? Maybe we're finally learning how to do this, or maybe we're embarking on something that's new to us from that Pisces angle. We're releasing victim mentality and we're surrendering. So, okay, let's dive into what that means. Okay. So, the question, this is super important too, I feel like, for a lot of us. So, this is the new story that's beginning because it's Aquarius and Leo. The question is, how do I balance being authentically me while also being part of a we? Okay, because Aquarius energy and Leo energy are sort of, they complement each other, but they can be opposing. Because Aquarius is about community, innovation, the collective, right? And friendship and technology. But Leo is individual expression, creativity, romance, leadership, being seen, right? It's a bit more ego centered than Aquarius is. So when we see this eclipse, that's what's coming into question for everybody is, well, how do I balance that? The collective versus the me, right? And these chapters of the eclipses last for a bit longer. It's not just 6 months. You can actually see, because when the next time that axis comes up, it's like you're closing a chapter. So you might be beginning one or closing one in that theme. And so for this one, it's how do you about finding yourself within community, but not losing yourself or isolating yourself, right? So that's what that one is. And then Virgo and Pisces, this is an older story completing March 3rd and August 28th. These are the two kind of bookends. The question here is, how do I balance control versus surrender? Because Virgo energy is more perfectionism, analysis, work, health and service and details. Pisces is not like that. Pisces energy is more kind of free flowing. It's more, spiritual. And again, think of the fog, right? It's kind of like it goes with the flow. Virgo is not like that at all. So what's ending is perfectionism, over controlling, but also martyrdom and trying to fix everything too. So those are the two things. And again, still general. When we look at each person's, that's going to be how you can interpret it for you personally, right? So how does this eclipse affect you? Let's break it down again by your rising sign. So all of this page is for Aries rising. Anyone that's an Aries rising, these are all 4 of the eclipses. So each line is about how it affects you personally for each of the eclipses, the 2 that we already had and the 2 that we're going to have. And it also says in what house it's going to affect you in. See, I did so much work for you guys. Like, this is so, I know I'm a nerd, man, but I was like, wait, but how? How does this affect everybody? Because everybody's important, right? So take your screenshots and we're going to move to the next one. So that's Aries rising, all of your eclipses for until, August. Taurus rising is going to be in your 10th house, or it was in your 10th house, your 5th house. The next 2 are in your 4th and 11th houses. Again, if I go too fast, please unmute yourself and tell me to slow my roll. Gemini rising. This is affecting 9th and 4th house, 3rd and 10th house. I'm not going to email the deck, but I'm going to put everything on. Oops, I think I missed somebody else. But I'm going to be putting it on YouTube. So it'll be on YouTube. You can go back and reference like anything that you missed. Okay, so now moving forward, Cancer rising. This is falling into your 8th house, your 3rd, your 2nd, and your 9th houses. Okay. Leo rising. This affects your seventh house, second house, first, and eighth house.
Sheila, in the
Yeah.
chat, there was a request. When I made a screenshot, I'll also be requesting it if you could slightly move
Okay.
far over to the
This way?
other way.
The other way? This
Yes,
way?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me. I wonder. No, that's not going to work. Because if I do it this way, you guys won't see. Okay. Just let me know if that's better or if it's not better.
Perfect.
It's better. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you for telling me because I can't track it all. Okay. So Virgo rising, sixth house, first house, because it's happening. This happened in your first house. And then 12th house and seventh house. Libra rising. It's affecting or affected the fifth house and the 12th house, 11th and sixth house. Scorpio rising, fourth house, 11th house, 10th and fifth houses. Sagittarius rising, this is going to affect your third house, 10th house, ninth, and fourth houses. Capricorn rising, second, ninth, eighth, and third house. Aquarius rising, first house, because the first Aquarius eclipse was in Aquarius, so it's affecting your first house, eighth, seventh, and second houses. Pisces rising, your 12th house first, seventh house, sixth house, and finally in your first house. Okay, so moving on. Now looking at Gemini, or sorry, Uranus in Gemini. So it's going to enter Gemini on the 25th of April, and it's going to stay there until 2033. So let's break down what that means. Again, Gemini is the zodiac sign that's responsible for like communication, information, AI, media, learning. So how we learn, how we connect to learn together or individually, and how we think. Uranus is, again, remember, the planet of revolution, disruption, breakthrough, a lightning bolt that shatters the status quo because it's a revolutionary planet. So when you combine the two, that means the way we communicate, the way we learn, the way we share information is going to drastically transition. It's going to get revolutionized. So again, this is kind of like what we were talking about with AI and stuff, right? Like how we learn and how we communicate is already changing. I mean, there's therapy chatbots and a ton of other things that are now in existence that weren't necessarily commonplace before. So we're going to see a shift in all of that until 2033 at least. So the last time this happened, the television went mainstream. The transistor was invented, that was the basis of the computers. code breaking technology happened, information warfare happened, the nuclear age began. And this time, the supposition is that AI will revolutionize everything from this point forward. So what we may experience, as I kind of went over already, AI becoming super duper mainstream, like way more than what we are used to right now. It being incorporated into daily life, and it's potentially a lot of jobs might change. From customer service. I mean, I know a lot of people are already. I use AI too. We're already incorporating it, right? So just the surge of that can be astronomical in the next few years. It also may make it very difficult to be able to determine what's real and what's fake. I don't know if anybody's seen, like, there are social media accounts of completely fake people that, like, you could have scammed me. Like, I had no idea that was not an actual human being. Like, it's crazy how realistic things can look. So that is more than likely going to be something we're going to experience, a difficulty of being able to distinguish the difference. So communication breakthroughs, right? Real-time translation like, I know AirPods are now updating to be able to reflect that. So new forms of communication that maybe we haven't even discovered yet. New forms of learning that maybe we haven't discovered yet, education systems and so forth. Brain computer interfacing may happen. And this is, I don't know for sure, right? But this is just kind of like based on combining those two together, like what could happen. Also, information overload. So media could be completely disrupted and overwhelmed because everybody's a broadcaster now, right? Like, people, there are so many citizen journalists and things like that it may be overwhelming. So we just have to be mindful of our mental health moving forward. Not that we shouldn't have before, but really being careful of the content we consume and how we ground ourselves. So Uranus and Gemini plus everything else is a major transformation, because if Saturn is in Aries, the governments are trying to control information. If Neptune is in Aries, which it is, spiritual and ideological information wars are happening. And Pluto in Aquarius is power through technology and data, which is already moved into that since 2023. So what we may begin to see is authority versus free information, truth versus deception, and human connection versus AI relationships. So the challenge and the opportunity, when everything else, like you've already heard me say, when everything else externally is chaotic, how can we ground ourselves internally? So again, your spiritual compass, being connected to your inner knowing, your connection to source or spirit, your higher self, your own energetic discernment, your energetic protection, your energetic hygiene, so your spiritual hygiene. And that's one thing AI can't hack, is how you internally are regulating and connecting with source, right? And Neptune's fog can't obscure that forever, because, well, it's no longer in Pisces, it's in Aries. So, and Mercury retrograde, once it gets out of retrograde, then a lot of clarity is going to happen for everybody. So, kind of putting it all together. So here's something interesting too. Since Neptune is in Aries, you might find yourself, like, in a real world situation. You might find yourself yearning for, you might know people that are yearning for more of like a groundedness in a spiritual or a ritual or something that feels like it resonates with them, that gives them clarity or groundedness. Because the collective is yearning for something spiritual to anchor to, right? When there's so much chaos and so much instability, we're sort of looking to each other or internally to feel like there's security, so that there's connection. So you may experience this, or you may see it in other people, that there is a draw towards, who am I spiritually? What do I believe? Because there's an urgency of that with everything else in combination, right? Fire, horse, all the other stuff. So you might notice that about yourself or about others, like people being more passionate about spiritual beliefs or metaphysics, or uncovering things, and maybe even defending them. So if Saturn and Neptune are at 0 degrees Aries, remembering what those two planets do, you may be restructuring your own internal systems of law. Because remember, Saturn is like what governs systems and laws and things like that. And if Neptune's fog is lifted, now you might have a brand new definition of what you should or shouldn't do. Like even in your own like compass of what you were taught or how you think you should live or how you shouldn't live, like that might be getting an overhaul too. So it's based on like your personal moral code and lived experience rather than external authority. So what you believe is right and wrong versus, what you've been taught might be shifting at a foundational level. So your inner sense of integrity might be getting an overhaul too. So again, putting it all together, Saturn and Aries, this could inspire activism and people taking direct action when institutions are failing. Grassroots movements, community organizing. I mean, I've seen like a lot on social media, people doing like neighborhood food pantries, which I think is a genius idea, but that's like another grassroots community kind of thing that people can do to support each other, right? Like instead of depending or leaning on other institutions. So this is what we might be seeing more of. So feeling like that internal leadership might be coming out because again, that's what Aries energy is. Not waiting for the system to change, but being part of the change yourself. So that's what we might see there. And finally, with Uranus and Gemini, you may see or become that independent journalist yourself, that reporter yourself, and create your own media or bypass traditional outlets like documenting things yourself, or you might, friends, if you know people who are interested in this, you might see a surge of that as well. So your own voice being the perspective rather than leaning on like a boxed version coming to you. Again, with the fire horse here, you may notice decisions that you normally take a long time to make might suddenly feel urgent and things might change like that. So all of this together. And what can you do? Remember, strengthen your own intuition, discover or deepen your own spiritual practices, engage in your spiritual hygiene, learn how to discern things through your own body, your own intuitive feedback system, not just your mind. Learn how to protect your own energy, have those energetic boundaries. And we're almost done, you guys. And so and I know I like obviously like you guys who know me, you know that I really like teaching and I like to educate people. I'm putting together a spiritual mastery course like for empaths because of exactly this. Like there is a need for this too. There is a need for not only connection, but guidance. Like how do I have energetic boundaries? How do I cleanse my own aura? How do I do, a lot of things that it's going to be covered in the course, but it's an experiential one where people are going to be doing with me. I'm going to do guided hypnotherapy. Like it's going to be a bunch of fun stuff, but it's practical. So how can you strengthen your own like inner resources to be able to like feel grounded when externally everything feels chaotic? So that's just something I'm putting together. And if you're interested, you could always email me or message me. It's not going to be a big class because I don't want too many people in it. But so stay tuned if you're curious, message me. The other thing too is if anybody is curious about diving into their chart, or again, not an astrologist, but I'd be more than happy to go over things with anybody, but personally, if they want to know about their own chart. But yeah, I said that at supersonic speed, but that's pretty much everything. But don't forget to look into your houses. Your houses are going to be so important to look at, especially when it comes to, I know I didn't write this all out, but especially when it comes to where Pisces is, because whatever house that's in, it could have caused, how do I put this? Like, it could have caused some form of anxiety in that house. Because it's of a delusion or illusion, right? So just careful to look through and dice through the different parts of your houses and your whole chart, because it really reveals a lot to us about ourselves. And it's a great tool to be able to explore, like not only explore your internal world and your psyche, but just to go deeper and deeper into like, what did I even write for this incarnation? What am I going to be facing? What can I expect for the next year or 2 years or whatever? It's just a really cool tool to be able to explore those things. And look at your north nodes too, because north and south nodes are also very important. Does anybody have any questions? Because that's it. I got nothing else for you.